Hello there, this is luckyDminor with another strong game for Player Chess FFA. We're having blue with 2074 points, yellow with 2073, red with 2275, and myself with 2115, having lost a few games against weaker players recently. Okay. So red starts with the king's pawn, blue with the queen's pawn, yellow with the king's pawn. Both side players are opening their bishops and queen's lines. I do a small step with my queen's pawn, trying to block the bishop immediately. Queen comes out fast, so blue and green have to be very careful now. What is queen threatening? She's threatening the check on yellow, on me, on green. So I have to watch out for this. Blue's just pushing. Yellow is not taking out his queen, so he's not directly supporting the attack from red. That's good for me. I immediately close this diagonal to protect my king. Development, pawn pushing, development. I bring out another knight just for further protection of my king. And the queen is blocking the blue pawn here. I think it's always pretty expensive to use the queen for blocking pawns. So let's see. Okay, blue is opening an attack line on this pawn. Yellow is opening an attack line on the blue king, or preparing to do so, still masked with a knight. And I'm starting to push pawns. So my idea here is to push this pawn further in order to push away the red queen. Therefore, this way, both blue and I could possibly get queens. Red is blocking it off with blue. Blue is opening another diagonal for his bishop. And yellow is protecting. So I push my pawn as said. Red is developing. Blue is pushing a pawn. It's always the question, are these pawns just standing next to each other, or do they want to take each other? So, of course, when red takes, he would open up a line for his king, but he doesn't want to attack yellow anyway in the moment, so why open up the line? When blue takes, red can take back, and blue would have an open diagonal for his queen to further attack red. So blue might earlier want to open this line. Okay, yellow is threatening to attack my knight. So I at least push a pawn there to be able to take back if needed, or to take the pawn if needed. Okay, red is opening another line between the bishops here. I'm not sure if I would have done it in red's place, because blue is on the left side of him. So it's maybe dangerous. Blue can now give an attack on red. If I can support that attack, maybe blue takes the bishop, I take the knight. He can only take one bishop and has ruined kind of his king position. But blue doesn't take. He doesn't want to lose his bishop yet. And here's the expected attack. So now, of course, I could take the pawn, but then the rook would take back. And I'm not sure if I want to have the rook here in my territory. I'm a little scared to somehow lose in these attacks. Therefore, I move away my knight. Now I can take the pawn if it doesn't move, because it's 2 times attacked. Also have always a possible threat here with my knight attacking the yellow structure somehow later on. Okay, red is doing the same thing with my other knight possibly. Blue plays fianchetto, attacking this knight, but it's protected. Okay. Yellow moves his pawn, and I have to move my pawn in order to get away from yellow's pawn, also in order to further my way down here to attack the queen. Okay, now the other knight gets attacked. And in this case, I was looking for possible attacks from yellow, because when I'm under attack, yellow may have a free strike, but there's really nothing he can do in a moment. So sometimes it would be just better for red to wait with that move until he sees that yellow has an attack possibility too. So this way I can just move away with my knight. Blue queen comes out. What is she doing? Okay, she's attacking that red pawn, that yellow pawn. Double attacking that knight, but the knight is protected. Wouldn't do that. Okay. Yellow's protecting the pawn. I move away my knight, and at the same time block my pawn. But I also block the protection for my pawn. Okay. The knight threatens threatens some attacks on the blue queen if possible, but up to now, all possible attack fields are protected by blue. Oh yeah, I didn't see it. The bishop double protects the knight, the pawn, because that was the threat that the bishop, that the knight or the other queen would take that pawn. Okay. Yellow moves another pawn. Also prepares fianchetto. And of course, this pawn at some point may again attack my pawn and my knight, or just protect that pawn. At this point, I wanted to, one, protect my knight, but also I wanted to make sure that my king is not attacked somehow. Maybe this was a little slow. No, it was not slow. I had a different idea. I was not thinking about it now. So the problem is I cannot push my pawn and attack the red queen, since it's not defended by the queen anymore. So I have to move my knight away. But I do not want to move my knight away before I have made sure that the yellow pawn cannot move on. So that's why I played this pawn in this moment. Okay, fianchetto and attack on my knight. Attack on the red's knight. He's protecting his pawn and also threatening attacking my knight and pawn. And I move now away with my knight in order to be able to play this move. Also, the two knights here may be a big threat for yellow at some point. Okay, red attacks blue. And blue steps away. Why does yellow move back his knight? Well, maybe he's afraid of my knight moves, so he wants to protect that field. Yeah, maybe that's the main reason here. So I attack the red queen. The red queen has to move away. And she goes away. Does she attack something here? Well, my king is safe for the moment. No danger. And blue can take the red knight. Yellow builds up his pawn structure. And I'm going for queen. Of course, at this point, blue could take, but with high-rated players, you should never see that, because he would lose his pawn, I would lose my queen, and his pawn will also become a queen soon, possibly, so he should never do that. So I can easily promote, even though he does not make the step forward before me. So red takes back the pawn. Blue blocks the bishop. Yellow brings out the knight again. Okay, he looks like he only made this knight move in order to get this pawn out. Okay, maybe a bit slow in this part of the game. At this point, I was shortly thinking about, I thought I had an immediate mate on blue. I didn't see that this pawn was still protected. Stupid me. But of course, it would be stupid anyway, even if that pawn, knight is not there. And if I really could mate blue, I should never do that at this moment. I would win 20 points, well, 21 points, including the pawn, but I would lose my possible best partner in this game. So I should never do that. So I move back, block the yellow pawn, and prepare possible attacks on this line. I didn't see that my queen was hanging to this bishop. So if red and yellow would really play a strong teaming game here, red should take the queen. It's only 1 point queen, and I would take the bishop, so I would win more points. But in total, they would weaken us. But since he's a very high-rated player, and many high-rated players tend to not trade off material very easily. So I got lucky with this, and he simply blocks it off himself. Okay, now blue is preparing to promote. Further pawn pushes by yellow, opening up his king safety a bit. I'm not very happy. I mean, I'm happy, but I do not really like this move. I open possibilities for my bishop to fianchetto or to, whenever appropriate, attack red. Queen moves back. Well, maybe planning to do a joint attack on the king someday. And blue is creating his second queen. So now blue and green together have 2 additional queens, and that's pretty strong for a start. So in the beginning, red played very aggressively with his queen. Yellow did not follow up and did not really support him with that. And therefore, kind of both players lost time. And since blue and green were supporting each other for the promotion, we are on top now. Okay, yellow continues pawn pushing. I decide with my knight to not go here, but go there. First of all, I do not want to have the knight being traded off. Secondly, from here, I can also stop pawns if needed. And also I have a nice attack field later on here with a fork on the bishop and a rook possibly. Okay, red is preparing also to push a pawn possibly. Blue is attacking that pawn twice. Well, it's protected twice, so no immediate danger for yellow, but his king is already kind of in a little unfamiliar situation. Is familiar the right word? I don't think so. Well, you know what I mean. Okay. Moving the bishop behind his own pawns. Well, yeah, he wants to protect this pawn a third time. So now I use the other knight. Since the bishop is not there anymore, I am not worrying that it may be traded off. So I can come closer to yellow's king and queen with my knights. Okay, bishop moves back, possibly opening trades or attacks on my king here later. Blue moves back. Why is he doing that? Well, maybe he just saw that the attack on this pawn was not, well, yeah, he was just not safe there. I was attacking him. Well, he wouldn't believe that I would take him. But here he can just better support his pawn and whatever. King makes a step. Okay, yeah, it's just safer diagonal. This diagonal may open much earlier than this diagonal. And now I have a fork on the bishop and the rook protected by my queen. Red is just pushing a pawn, protecting that pawn that was before that only protected by his queen. Blue's moving back. Possible later attacks on this pawn. So at this point, when I attack bishop and rook, I'm not sure whether blue would have an immediately attack to support that. he could possibly at this point taken that because his queen is supporting that, my knight is supporting that. I'm also threatening to take the rook. I don't know. He's moving away the bishop, so he rather gives me the rook than losing the bishop, especially because when I would have taken that bishop, he would have taken back with the pawn, and that would completely have ruined his king safety. So he rather gives me the rook. And since we are kind of teams, green and blue here, I just take and trade the rook in order to weaken our opponents as best as possible. I'm allowing a possibility here for queen trades. Of course, that would be painful for me if that would happen. But it would hurt yellow more than it would hurt me because I still have another queen. So I was believing that he would not trade and he would rather just take the knight. And now blue takes a chance, and that is a smart move from him. So now the bishop is no longer there. It's even blocking the defense from the queen, so this is a free pawn now. I haven't seen that, and that was smart for blue. Yellow still takes my knight as expected, but I have an immediately further attack on the queen now with my other knight, and again blue has a chance of taking. So red in this case is just pushing pawns and not really supporting yellow, and the bishop just takes. The queen has to make a step, and there's another attack from the knight. So knights, especially two knights from the left side, can be so painful. So always watch out for them. Red continues pushing. Here, the bishop is not taking the rook, not trading for the rook, because the king would just take the bishop. He rather takes the free pawn. Of course, he's also attacking my queen, but he can be sure that I'm not taking. And also now with the queen and the bishop in an open line, he threatens to really take the rook without even having to worry to lose his bishop. So yellow takes knight. I continue the attack. While we are at the attack together, I want to give blue the best support I can. I do not even worry about moving away my queen because I'm sure he's not taking my queen. Okay. Now the bishop takes the rook. He attacks my queen. I can just step back. And red is making all kinds of small moves. Yes, he has a safe king position, but he's not really supporting yellow. And here another of yellow's pawn is being taken by blue, protected by the queen. And I continue the attack with my pawns on the yellow material. Red still pushing, now opening also a bishop's file here. Well, maybe at some point it would be dangerous if he attacked this pawn if yellow had an attack to go with it. Blue moves back, also pins the pawn here so that it cannot go away. Well, it could. The pawn, the knight could go here and protect the queen, but possibly in the position where we are, blue might even sacrifice his 1-point queen for this 9-point queen. So he blocks the line, and I can take the knight. Red is continuing doing small moves. My pawn gets taken. The blue bishop is under attack. I further attack one of the last remaining pawns by yellow, but also preparing, of course, my bishop to come out wherever needed. Okay, further pawn pushing. Bishop comes back, blocks red pawn, doubles the attack on this pawn. It's also double attacked by my queen and bishop here. So it would be a possible winning attack on this pawn. I don't know. But it's pretty dangerous as long as you're not done with one side partner or side player. Yellow still has a queen, still has a bishop, is still dangerous. So now to attack red, who is pretty strong, has lots of material, maybe it could have happened. Well, maybe not from me doing the first strike, but from blue later on. I also have to watch out a little for my king's pawn here, if red would support that somehow. Okay, I make a move with my queen in order to be able to take this pawn or to take that queen or trade it. And again, I'm hanging my queen to this bishop. I was not seeing it again. So I make stupid moves. So in this case, should red take? It's protected by the yellow queen. Can red be sure that yellow trusts him and doesn't move the queen away, just protects the queen with the king possibly? I think in this case, as red, I would have taken the queen. Well, protection is good. I would, of course, have taken back with my pawn then. So this makes it, again, a little difficult. So reverse what I've said, maybe not. And he doesn't, so he moves away. And blue's moving back his queen, so he also doesn't want to attack. Would have been possible. So if blue would have taken this one, but it's 3 times protected. I have moved away my queen. No, wouldn't have made sense. Okay. So he just moves away his queen. Possible checks from here. And yellow protects that check. But hung his queen. So when you get under pressure, sometimes you make mistakes. Red is still pushing pawns. And blue is not attacking my bishop. He wants to have a check whenever I move my bishop away. Possibly here, threatening a mate. So yellow protects his king. I move away anyway. And red is attacking the blue pawn structure. Blue is getting out his second queen, maybe to take that pawn here. Or maybe, well, could have put a check on yellow immediately, but wouldn't have made any sense. Yellow's attacking the blue queen. And I'm making a step with my bishop, wanting to come over here in order to have a checkmate there. Red is attacking blue. At this point of the game, I'm kind of okay and happy with that, because yellow is nearly done. And if red and blue are now trading pieces, I may be in the best position to win. Blue is trusting on me. Well, he's just taking a pawn with his queen, even though the field is protected. When I protect with my bishop, why is he taking this pawn? Well, he has to move the queen. He cannot take the bishop. His other bishop is under attack, and after that, possibly also the queen would be under attack. So it looks like blue has to do something. At this point, yellow sees a chance to take this knight, because blue is so under pressure that even though the knight is protected, this bishop may get away with it. I'm of course not taking the blue queen. I'm just making a step. Again, as said, preparing a mate. And red decides to not take this queen. This would have immediately possibly ended up in me taking the bishop and then threatening to take rook or knight. So he rather takes this bishop and threatens the attack on that queen. And blue continues the attack over here. He sacrifices his queen here in order to maximize the results put on red here. So let's check. And of course, in this situation, I was looking, can I do a checkmate? But there was no checkmate or something I could do here. I was thinking about possibly attacking the red queen, but the red queen was well, could take that queen and would be safe. So at this point, yellow is just protecting his pawn and not moving away his bishop, trusting that the fight between red and blue will continue for a while. Oh no, that was not the reason. He just wanted to protect this field so I can't checkmate. So I give a check anyway in order to give blue more time to fight it out with red. Blue loses his queen, but has taken the bishop before. And blue now gives a mate on yellow. I've not seen that before, that it would be possible. I was aware that it might be possible some way, but I didn't take the time to look for it. So blue now with 39 points is far ahead in points. I can still easily overtake him. Red is already far behind. So I figured that having blue in the highest point ranking is not the worst situation here. I pull back my queen. Also now, frankly, considering at some point, when the knight would move, that here would be possible attacks. And red is pushing his pawns, still hoping to gain more queens. But he's hanging his knight. Possibly, I'm sure he hasn't seen that. Okay, I push my further pawns. Also, I want these pawns to protect each other in order to have my queen free from that protection. Also have it free to move out wherever needed. And red is creating his first queen. So I was shortly thinking, should I stop that? What could I have done? I could possibly have moved this bishop here in order to stop that. But somehow I figured, let them fight it out. I didn't want to loosen up my position, my king safety, and my material at this point. So there's the queen. Blue has to move away. And now also, of course, I could take the queen with my queen, but that would be stupid. I just take out my rook in order to not allow red to create further queens. I'm okay with red having 2 queens, but not with 3. But still, red pushes pawns and is pretty dangerous here now. But maybe he hung the pawn again. So there's the bishop and just takes it. So not good play from red in this moment. So I figured that possibly I have now a chance to create more queens even. Well, maybe red was thinking he cannot protect this pawn with the rook. Therefore, he will never be able to push it safely. So he just pushes it, lets it get killed. And now he has a protected pawn at this position, protecting that pawn. Maybe it was kind of smart. Also, he now opens, and then I think that's a strategy. He opens an attack line here on the king. Okay, red now attacks the bishop, also attacks and threatens queen trades. I'm very happy about blue and red fighting about that in the moment. Blue doesn't want to trade, but hangs his rook. Why is he doing that? He could have just stepped back and protected the rook from there. Well, of course, he also had to protect the bishop, and the bishop is important for red not to create further queens. But he could have moved there and protected both. So I'm not sure why he moved there. Did he see a chance to attack blue's king in possible mate situations? At this, well, I don't know. Maybe he was thinking in the next move of giving a check, sacrificing his queen for me to take that queen safely. I'm not sure. Maybe it also was just a mistake. I now block the pawn and attack the red queen again. Actually, I was thinking that at this moment the queen would just take the rook. Of course, the bishop could have taken my rook too, but I would have taken the bishop, and I think blue would not have taken my rook. Okay, but the queen takes the bishop, even though it's not protected. I mean, the bishop is protected and the queen is not protected. I don't know. Queen takes. And at this point, I'm really being a traitor to blue. Since blue just effectively created damage with red. Red has very low points, and I'm seeing a possible quick mate there. I was thinking I can do it now, since the rook is protected by the queen and also by my own queen, so he has to move the king. If he doesn't move the king, I have possible attacks on the blue queen with check from the red queen. So queen keeps the red keeps the queen there to allow this check. So the king has to move, and I just move a step back. So at this point, there's no fast mate on blue, but his king safety is very much endangered now. Red is offering me his queen for trades. Should I do that at this moment? I'm not doing that. I just push my pawn and I have a possible third queen in reach. So red further protects his pawn. Also possibly at some point may attack me, but just with the rook it would not be even a check. And the field is 2 times protected. Okay. Green stops me, blue stops me from promotion. But I want to still push it through and support my pawn. Okay. Red gives another stop signal for my promotion. King goes for safety. And I attack red. At this point, I see I cannot move forward here. I'm not afraid about this pawn coming up because it can always be taken. I can also take the other pawn now. And I didn't want to have his rook being here, so I just threatened to take here and threaten the rook. Okay. Now I'm thinking again about possible attacks here, 2 times protected. But maybe if blue supports the attack somehow, maybe if the rook takes, oh, it's not his move, so blue has to move further first. Okay. Now let's see if I'm doing something. As I did, I took this. Would it now be possible blue takes, red takes, and if blue would now bravely attack myself, I could possibly take here, but then I would lose my queen. or I could not take that, but just step away. And since the bishop is also protected, it's not a big danger here. And blue wouldn't possibly have taken the risk because, oh yeah, I, I would of course possibly taken the queen. Just this is not winning for red and neither for blue. Okay, I take the pawn and the rook just moves away. So blue further tries to stop me from promoting and maybe even promote himself at some point. I step back. Oh, maybe that was even a mistake. I'm not sure. Oh no, that's fine. Oh, I could have, at this point, I could have taken the rook, was free, giving a check. That would allow blue either to move here and take the queen, well, king has to move. I can further take the rook. Blue can move here and take the queen, so we could have finished red in this move. But I was afraid that blue would not move here, but would take my pawn, and then later on in the game threaten my king. And if then blue and red would partner, I would be in pretty big danger. So that's why I not took the rook there, but just, oops, where are we? I just step back with my queen in order to then, in the next move, threaten to take the rook without leaving my pawn alone and my king in the open. So he smells the danger and moves away. Blue stops the pawn from moving, but leaves his pawn and king undefended. That was a mistake, I guess. Red immediately attacks the blue queen. The queen can only step back and is lost. And blue gets mated by red. So I'm okay with red moving because mating because he only had a few points. Now he's a little before me, but I have two queens, and I'm pretty hopeful to still be able to win this game, even though of course now the red pawns may quickly go for promotion. But I have the first move and I have a third queen before them. And immediately start the attack on the red king in order to leave him no air for breathing and for pawn promotions. He promotes anyway. Could I have stopped that in this moment? Well, could have moved the rook to stop that, but that would leave that pawn moving. Could have moved my queen to stop that, but I'm not sure if I really could have stopped the two pawns. So maybe it's better to counterattack. Even though there's a new queen, but I'm attacking the other rook, threatening to mate. He can step aside, but he figured in this moment it would be better to trade material. I'm not sure why he was not taking with the rook. Why is he not taking with the rook? So if he took with the rook, well, I don't see an immediate or fast mate on the king. Of course, the king is weak because the first line is not protected anymore. Oh yeah, here it is. The bishop is protecting that field, and here's the mate. Haven't seen it in the game. Okay, that's the reason why he couldn't do it. So he took with the queen. Could have possibly just stepped aside. I don't know. So pawn takes queen. Next pawn goes for promotion. I stop that. Bishop attacks both rook and queen. At this point, I was not seeing the mate because this move would make the king. But I was so scared about my queen and rook, I was a little surprised by the bishop's move. And therefore, I protect my rook. He's additionally attacking my rook. I don't know if he was not seeing the mate either, or if he just saw this attack as his last chance. So here's the mate, because one move later I even saw it. So I think this was a very interesting game. I took quite a while reviewing it now. Please comment in YouTube if you would have done something different. Thanks for watching. Thanks for playing. Have a nice day.